Hello everyone, today I bring another video for you. I hope you like it. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. Now let's go to the video. It all kicks off with our main character holding a medical report, and the news inside is anything but good. The doctor informs him that his mother has advanced stage bone cancer and needs 100,000 yuan for treatment. Completely blindsided, the guy can barely process that his mom has such a serious, terminal illness. Meanwhile, the doctor just walks off, telling him to hurry up and get the money so her care isn't interrupted. In desperation, the young man wonders where he could possibly find that much cash, since he's already spent everything he had and his dad bailed on them. With the weight of the cancer diagnosis, our MC feels like his world has been pulled out from under him, completely hopeless. But he quickly pulls himself together, his eyes showing a newfound determination. He can't give up now. In that instant, he remembers his mom comforting him about not landing a good job, inviting him to have a drink with her. She used to say that a great man isn't afraid of a little hardship, and if she could raise him all by herself, they could overcome anything. With that memory in his mind, the young man's eyes well up with tears, but his expression becomes even more resolute. He then crumples the paper in his hand, thinking that his mother is the most precious thing in his life, and he has to find a way. Next, our protagonist carefully folds the medical report and tucks it away for later. Now, with a confident posture, he swears to himself that he will get the money needed to save his mother. With this goal in mind, he heads to the big city, searching for a solution to his financial troubles. But after spending half the day running around, he comes up empty and says his only option left is to find her. With that, he feels useless, blaming himself for not being strong enough to handle the situation. So, the guy takes a deep breath and thinks he needs to tackle one thing at a time before anything else. With that, the young man heads for the entrance of an apartment building. His last hope is inside. Going up to the third floor, he starts hearing some strange noises coming from one of the apartments. Things seem to be pretty lovely in there, as legs are flailing in the air amidst some suggestive sounds. Indeed, someone was having a really good time under the sheets of that bed. Outside the door, our protagonist hears ex-girlfriend Yu Nuo with another guy named Lu Wei. He clenches his fist tightly and tells himself he just has to endure this humiliation. Right after, the guy knocks on the door. An annoyed voice complains about the noise. This Lu Wei character opens the door wearing only a towel and asks what Yihan is doing there, looking for his girlfriend. With a defeated look, our protagonist replies that he's not there for that. Just then, Yuno appears and tells Yihan that she's now in a relationship with Luo Wei. She cozies up to her new beau and tells her ex to get lost and never come back. Then, the girl says she doesn't want her new partner to get the wrong idea. So, the young man finally reveals he didn't come to get back together, but to borrow 100,000 yuan for his mom. The girl then questions how he'd pay it back, calling him a broke loser for not even being able to afford a dowry. The guy begs for her help in the name of the 3 years they spent together, promising he'll pay back every penny. The ex-girlfriend yells that in 3 years he never even bought her a purse, but Luo Wei already got her an entire apartment. With contempt, she says their 3 years of love aren't worth a dime, and that you shouldn't talk about feelings without money. Then, the girl tells him to scram because she still has things to do with her new boyfriend. Completely devastated, our protagonist can only whisper the name of the woman who just humiliated him. At that, he remembers when she used to say she liked his talent and that he made her feel safe. The girl even pretended to be traditional, saying they could only hold hands before marriage. He recalls that she never met his parents because she got a scholarship of 230,000 from the other guy. She then screamed that she was blind to have fallen for him and dumped him for not having money for a dowry. Even so, the young man grits his teeth and begs one more time for the money to save his mother's life. Yu Nu seems annoyed by his persistence, but the rival places a hand on our protagonist's shoulder. Lu Wei says he can lend him the money since he's now a manager at the Shenghua Group, and Yihan thanks him. But the man scoffs at him, asking why he should care about the life or death of some debtor's mother. With anger in his eyes, our hero shouts that he will definitely pay back the debt, no matter what. With a wicked smile, the rival comes up with an idea to humiliate our protagonist even more. He says he'll lend him the money if Yihan cleans up the mess he and Yunu made in the bedroom. And we can see the room is a total wreck, with the sheets all messed up after their little party. On top of that, the floor is covered with used tissues scattered everywhere. The guy's face fills with rage, but he controls himself for his mother's sake. Swallowing his pride, he grabs a trash bag to begin the humiliating cleanup. Meanwhile, the two lovebirds wait calmly outside the room. The couple looks at each other with an air of superiority and malice on their faces. A moment later, the protagonist returns with the trash bag and says he's finished the task. But with sheer cruelty, Lu Wei tells Yi Han to eat the entire contents of the bag. In shock, our hero says he's crossing a line because he knows what's in there. The man calls him shameless and then lands a solid punch right in his face. The blow is so powerful that the guy is thrown backward, hitting the floor hard. Lu Wei then mocks Yi Han for being weak, and the ex-girlfriend praises him for his strength. Lying on the floor, the protagonist hears the rival say he only wanted to humiliate him and would never lend him the money. The man continues the taunts, saying he was getting busy with his aches while our guy was cleaning up his trash. With a mocking smile, the rival asks what Yi Han can do about it, since he's such a loser. At that moment, Lu Wei prepares to teach our hero, who's still on the floor, a lesson. He then smacks him across the face with a slipper and tells him to never show his face again. But suddenly, the rival is startled by the sight of a red-haired woman flying outside the window. The stranger uses her high heels to plant herself on the side of the building like it's nothing. Next, the mysterious woman launches herself toward the apartment with incredible speed. She shatters the window and enters the room with a mid-air flip, leaving everyone stunned by the scene. With a perfect landing, the redhead delivers a powerful kick to Lu Wei's chest, who screams in pain. The protagonist is speechless, seeing the woman standing beside him after taking down his enemy. Then, the girl turns to him and calmly asks if he's okay after all that commotion. Yi Han then asks who she is and why she saved him, all while admiring her beauty. The rival on the floor and the ex-girlfriend also wonder who this woman is that just leaped up to the third floor. Just then, an older man appears and warns them not to ask questions about things they shouldn't know. Lu Wei asks who the older man is, but the gentleman ignores him and places a hand on his chest. With a single touch, the man unleashes a blast of energy that sends the rival flying. Frightened, the ex-girlfriend points at the man and threatens to call the police for breaking and entering. But the man and the redhead turn to her, and the older man advises her to rethink that decision. The girl's eyes go wide with fear as she realizes they are not ordinary people. Lu Wei then whispers for her to be quiet, because those two are very special people. Confused, our protagonist also asks who these two mysterious people who helped him are. The older man then offers a briefcase to the young man and says he'll give him the money he needs. Opening the briefcase, he reveals a huge sum of money, much more than the 100,000 he asked for. The young man is overjoyed and thanks the uncle, promising to pay it all back since he only wanted 100,000. The gentleman and the redhead are surprised, as no one in the imperial capital dares to call him uncle. He then explains that he's not lending it, but giving 1 million yuan as a gift to our hero. The villainous couple is shocked and asks why he would give so much money to a poor sap. With a deathly glare, the older man asks if they think they can tell him what to do. Completely terrified, the two of them cower and admit they were wrong to question him. The mysterious duo then asks Mr. Yi to accompany them, as they have something to discuss. Holding the briefcase, he's suspicious of the 1 million yuan offer, but he'll do anything for his mother. So, for his mother's sake, our protagonist agrees to go with the two strangers. They then leave the apartment and the door closes, leaving the villainous couple behind. The rival breathes a sigh of relief, and the ex-girlfriend says she was scared to death by the whole situation. Lu Wei then says Yi Han got lucky and suggests the girl should trick him to get all the money. Meanwhile, our hero and his saviors are inside a white luxury car. The guy asks who they are, and the man introduces himself as Su Vietis, head butler of the Yi family. The gentleman then says they won't just give him money, but also glory and great prosperity. Confused, the young man wonders what Yi family and what kind of glory and prosperity he's talking about. With the document in hand, the protagonist's expression changes to one of pure shock and surprise. The paper describes the Yi family as the most powerful in the world, with 1 trillion yuan in assets. Su Vietis reveals that 1 month ago, the family's sole heir was taken out in an assassination attempt. The butler continues, explaining that he and the deceased heir share the same name and appearance. Because of this, they want the young man to become the family's substitute master, and he can't believe it. The guy ponders that by becoming the master, he'll have everything the old heir had, but with a non-disclosure clause. Despite the great opportunity, he questions how the former master passed away, and the butler reveals it was with a fatal punch. With that revelation, the offer doesn't seem so great anymore, and the young man nervously asks if he can refuse the contract. But the butler threatens him, saying that signing it will take him to heaven, but not signing it will send him to the great beyond. The protagonist understands he has no choice. He already knows the secret, and if he doesn't sign, he'll be silenced forever. The butler then asks what he has left to lose and states that the contract will only bring him benefits. With that, he reflects on his miserable life and realizes he has no reason to be afraid, since he needs to save his mother. Filled with determination, the guy picks up the pen and finally signs the contract that will change his life. The butler says the family's future is in his hands, and the new master accepts the responsibility. With a determined look, he promises to take care of the things the old master left unfinished and to be loyal to the family. Satisfied with the new young master's response and determination, Butler Suvietis cracks a smile. After their talk, they finally arrive at their destination and get out of the white luxury car. The redhead introduces herself as King Luan and says she will protect him, and our hero asks if he can ask for anything. With a sly grin on his face, he starts thinking about the possibilities and what he'd really like to ask for. But sensing his intentions, the girl cuts him off, saying she only handles his security and calls him a lucky guy. But the guy ignores the jab and asks her to find some 600-year-old medicinal herbs. The girl is confused and asks if that's all he wants, and the protagonist doesn't understand her reaction. The bodyguard plays it cool and asks when he needs the herbs, and he replies as soon as possible. Chung Luan then informs him that the herbs will arrive in 1 hour, and the guy is shocked by the speed of the service. He then asks her to find a place for the delivery and reflects on how powerful the family must be to get such rare items. With that, they head to a luxurious 5-star hotel to wait for the delivery. Already inside the hotel suite, the bodyguard waits patiently while reading some documents. The girl finds it strange that he locked himself in the room, but concludes her mission is just to ensure his safety. Meanwhile, our protagonist is in the other room, preparing for what's to come. With a smile, he observes the 600-year-old herbs he finally got his hands on. He reflects that the Ye family doesn't know his secret, and he has no intention of being just a pawn in their game. Now, with the herbs, he can finally activate the secret medical technique his master left him as an inheritance. At that, we get a flashback to his childhood, where he asked his master why he wasn't being taught his techniques. The master would then reply warmly that the little one would know when the time was right. In another memory, his master is on his deathbed and asks the boy to give him his hand. His master then passes on the mystical celestial medical scripture to him through a touch. The master says that if he can't find them, it wasn't meant to be, and the young boy cries, promising to remember. Back in the present, he reflects that even with the inheritance, he never had the money for the herbs, but now he finally has them. With a determined look, the guy recites the words to begin the ritual of absorbing the herb's essence. At that moment, a yin and yang symbol appears on his hand as a powerful blue energy starts to swirl around him. The energy then intensifies, and our hero feels immense pressure on his body as the process continues. Overwhelmed, he can't take it and screams in pain as golden rays of pure energy completely surround him. A blast of power erupts, and his clothes are completely torn apart amidst the intense aura of blue energy. Outside, the bodyguard is startled by the noise coming from the room and goes on high alert. Worried about what might be happening, the girl runs to the door to check if her master is okay. Peeking in, she covers her face, embarrassed, thinking he's in there doing something embarrassing all by himself. But in reality, the protagonist is in the middle of a transformation and lets out a powerful roar with his new strength. The wave of energy is so strong that it hits the bodyguard, and her clothes also start to rip. With her clothes torn, the girl is furious with the situation and asks what in the world he's doing in there. However, our hero just stares at her with a calm and serene look, his body now completely transformed. The bodyguard is completely shocked by his transformation and the guy's calmness. With a new muscular body and surrounded by energy, he looks like a completely different person. Suddenly, the young man grabs the girl's arm with surprising and unexpected strength. He then pulls her close into a hug and transfers some of his energy to her. With that, they both fall to the floor amidst the remnants of their clothes, and she ends up passing out. Waking up in his arms, the redhead feels dizzy and questions him with a lot of anger. But to wake her up for good, the guy pinches her, and the girl lets out a yelp of pain. She then shoves him away and asks what he was doing, but the young man seems confused. The protagonist doesn't seem to quite understand the situation and is at a loss for what to say. But soon he realizes that his master's technique has finally been successfully activated. Excited by his new power, our hero suddenly kisses her, leaving the girl in shock. Sometime later, the two are already in the car, heading to their next destination together. In the back seat of the vehicle, the guy seems calm and thoughtful about his future now. He reflects that the scripture is divided into martial arts and medicine to become a master. With this, he understands that in today's world, Strength is everything, and without it, you have absolutely nothing. He then realizes that by mastering the medical scriptures, he can finally cure his mother's cancer. He now understands that he needs to train in both arts and harmony to achieve perfection and his true potential. Meanwhile, the bodyguard observes him in silence, seeming very thoughtful about her new master. The girl is sure he's hiding some kind of secret and isn't the person he appears to be on the surface. At that, she remembers the intimate moments they shared and how he acted so impulsively and strangely. With a slight blush on her face, the redhead wonders what other powers and secrets her new charge is hiding. With this thought in mind, they finally arrive at the hospital where the guy's mother is staying. The young man then quickly heads to the oncology ward to find his dear mother. Arriving there, he finds his mother on a gurney in the hallway, arguing with a nurse about the hospital bill. The protagonist shows up and asks what's going on, while his mother complains about being kicked out for being poor. The nurse explains that they haven't paid the bill and that the hospital is a business, not a charity. Then, the woman says they can either pay up or just take the lady and leave the hospital. Outraged, the mother questions the nurse's attitude, but she just tells her to stop wasting time and get some money. But the guy interrupts her, saying he's already paid the bill and is taking his mother back to her room. Without wasting any more time on the argument, he starts pushing the gurney to a more comfortable spot. The guy then diagnoses the nurse with pinpoint accuracy, telling her she has a month to live at most. In a serious tone, he states that she'll be gone in 3 days and advises her to be kinder in life. The woman is shocked because she has all the symptoms and no test has been able to find the cause of her pain. She then runs after him, demanding an explanation, but the young man warns her about the danger of her anger. The healthcare professional is left speechless, a look of pure rage on her face. She quickly changes her tune and begs for help, admitting her mistake and asking him to save her. He then tells her to take his mother back to the room and apologize, which she does promptly. The guy tells his mother he wasn't lying, and the nurse apologizes with great sincerity. He says he'll cure her if she takes good care of his mother, and the woman agrees, calling her Big Sister. The woman then corrects herself and calls her Fairy Sister, leaving our hero speechless. Once in the room, the lady asks her son when he learned medicine and if the diagnosis was just a random guess. The guy makes up an excuse, saying he hit his head and suddenly remembered everything his master taught him. He then reassures her, telling her to rest because he's already found a way to make money. With a smile on her face, the mother is impressed and proud of her son's new skills. Next, the protagonist asks King Luan for a set of silver acupuncture needles. The guy says it's to cure his mother, and the girl doubts that needles can cure cancer, but he challenges her. The bodyguard then makes a promise, saying she'll do anything if he manages to cure her. With a mischievous look, our hero gets excited by the girl's bold proposal. He then accepts the challenge and, with a confident smile, says the deal is sealed. Later, the protagonist is seen reading a book on how to act like the master of a wealthy family. He reflects on the dangers of being the master of the Yi family and the importance of practicing his new abilities. Suddenly, his mother starts screaming in pain, and the guy rushes to see what's happening. The lady writhes on the bed, saying she's in a lot of pain because of her illness. The young man then offers to give her a massage to alleviate his dear mother's suffering. He approaches the bed and lifts the sheet to begin the impromptu treatment. He knows he can't cure the cancer yet, but he can use his new skills to reduce the pain. With that, the guy concentrates his energy into his hands and prepares to use his new techniques. The yin and yang symbol glows on his hands as blue energy flows through his body. He then places his hands on his mother and transfers his energy to relieve her pain. The sun's touch seems to have a calming effect, and the lady's pain begins to subside. He then holds his mother's arms firmly while applying his special massage technique. With the treatment, the lady sighs in relief as the pain she felt finally starts to disappear. She says his technique is great, and the guy promises to massage her every day to cure her illness. Feeling better, our hero's mother asks him to get a wheelchair so they can go for a little walk. With a smile, the young man agrees and promises with determination that he will cure his mother no matter what. Sometime later, the two are in the hospital's beautiful garden, enjoying the fresh air. As they stroll, the lady complains about being stuck in bed, and he reassures her that she'll be fine soon. At that, the mother jokes that she's going to set him up on dates, and the son complains about her bad choices. But suddenly, the lady tells her son to look to his side, and he doesn't understand why. He then sees a woman in a pink dress with a striking presence approaching them. The brown-haired girl walks with great confidence and seems to be someone very important. The guy notices she has a heroic spirit and his mother reveals that her name is Wei Jixi. The mother says she's rich and would make a great daughter-in-law, but the guy is embarrassed by her insistence. Our hero then becomes thoughtful and repeats the girl's name in his mind for a moment. He observes her from a distance and is impressed by the beauty and powerful aura of the girl. He then thinks that she's, well, developed and jokes that getting too close would be suffocating. But a moment later, he notices something strange and realizes the girl seems to be in danger. Two men in suits and masks pretend to read newspapers, but are actually keeping an eye on the girl. Suddenly, the masked men attack the young woman's bodyguards from behind, and they cry out in pain. With the surprise attack, one of the bodyguards falls to the ground, completely defeated. The other attacker, a bald man, pulls out a knife and lunges to attack the girl with a deadly look. Fearlessly, the girl reacts with a powerful high kick to defend herself from the blade. The bald man is shocked when she dodges the knife with her kick, leaving him disarmed. The other enemy grabs her from behind, but she hits him with a blue energy technique. Despite her defense, the girl feels the impact of the clash and grunts with the effort of the fight. Kneeling on the ground, she complains that her two bodyguards were completely useless. She then warns the guy and his mother to run because the attackers are martial artists. The villains surround them and threaten to finish all three of them off together, thinking they are allies. Desperate, the girl tries to protect them, saying they aren't important people. But the attacker doesn't care and lunges forward with the knife in hand to attack our group. But our hero acts fast, and with a kick, he lifts a tree branch off the ground. He then positions himself in front of his mother as a blue aura protects him from danger. The guy then grabs the branch in mid-air and prepares to join the fight to protect his family. With the branch in hand, he runs towards the attacker with an impressive combat stance. Wei Jixi is surprised by his skill and hopes the young man will help her defeat the two enemies. The protagonist then masterfully spins the branch, creating a barrier that blocks the attacker's strikes. The girl is confused because he's only defending himself and not helping her fight the villains. Annoyed by his attitude, the girl calls him an idiot for not taking the chance to attack. She then confronts him, saying he's good at fighting and should be more enthusiastic about helping. But the guy replies that this mess has nothing to do with him, and he's not going to interfere in her fight. The assassins decide he must be the girl's secret bodyguard and that they need to take him out too. With a smile, the girl confirms to the villains that he is her bodyguard, and the guy gets annoyed. The girl then provokes our hero by sticking her tongue out at him, which makes him even angrier. Angrily, the attackers accuse them of flirting and charge forward to finish them both off. The young woman retorts angrily that the assassins are the ones fooling around in the middle of a fight. With a serious look, the guy thinks that these assassins deserve what's coming to them for being so dumb. The attackers call him arrogant and charge with glowing fists to strike him first. With a cold look, he says they asked for it, and his fist also begins to glow with energy. He then kicks one of the attackers hard and says there was never any cooperation between them. The villain goes flying through the air from the impact of the kick, screaming in pain from the force of the blow. His partner is shocked and can't believe a single kick could send his brother flying like that. The protagonist challenges him to try as well and lands another kick that sends the second enemy flying. With that, both assassins end up smashing into a tree and get stuck in its trunk. With no strength left to continue, the two of them fall to the ground, completely defeated by our hero. Wei Jixi is shocked and wonders how he defeated two powerful assassins so easily. The young man tells them to wait for the police and reflects that his new power is stronger than he imagined. He understands that the strength comes from the essence of the herbs and his master's powerful scriptures. Even though defeated, one of the attackers threatens him, saying their reinforcements are already on the way. With a bloody, evil smile, the man seems confident that victory will be theirs. At that moment, our hero and the girl turn to the side and are shocked by what they see approaching. But one of the goons on the ground suddenly starts foaming at the mouth and drops dead on the spot. The protagonist realizes the man is gone and deduces he had poison hidden in his teeth. The girl then asks who he is, and the guy replies that he was just passing by. With a smile, she thanks him for his help, but our hero gets completely flustered by the situation. Just then, the guy's nose starts to bleed, and he thinks about how breathtaking the girl's beauty is. The young woman notices the bleeding and stares at him with a surprised and slightly irritated expression. She questions him about where he's looking, and the guy apologizes, saying it was just an accident. As she turns away, the girl ends up tripping on the branch he used to fight the assassins. With that, she screams in surprise and falls right into our hero's arms, completely embarrassed. The two end up in an unexpected embrace, and the girl's face turns beet red with embarrassment. Meanwhile, the protagonist's mother watches the scene with a satisfied and approving smile. Embarrassed, the girl says she's not the type of person who loses her temper over an accident. She then takes her anger out on her bodyguards, telling them to clean up the whole mess left there. The guy warns her about her anger, and the irritated young woman tells him to leave if he's bothered. With a smile, he warns her that if she keeps this up, she'll never be able to advance in her power. The girl is completely shocked by the guy's revelation about her stagnant power. She then turns to him and asks how he knew about such a well-kept secret. Meanwhile, his mother explains that the girl got angry because of the unexpected hug. But the young woman tries to ignore what she heard and thinks he just said that by chance to show off. Later, the girl visits her grandfather in the hospital, and he asks about the assassins from earlier. The head of the Wei family advises her to be careful and not to go out until she's stronger and safer. With a worried sigh, the granddaughter agrees with her grandfather's advice and obeys him. The old man then says he wants to meet the guy who saved her life, which surprises her. Embarrassed, she says he's just a troublemaker and that there's no reason to meet him. The grandfather notices her blush and finds it strange, as she's never been interested in anyone before. He then insists and tells her to invite her savior, and the girl reluctantly agrees. Meanwhile, our hero carefully applies acupuncture needles to his mother's back. After the treatment, he begins to remove the needles one by one with great care. The lady says she feels much better and that the pain has finally disappeared completely. With a smile, he promises that with a few more sessions, she will be completely cured of the illness. The guy then asks Qingluan if she's convinced and asks for her help with his mother. He says the exam will prove it and that he has a request for her as part of their bet. With a provocative look, our hero then asks the bodyguard to kiss him. At that moment, the other girl appears at the door and angrily calls him a troublemaker. With her arms crossed, she accuses him of having bad intentions and harassing other women. The guy says he's talking to his girlfriend and that it's none of her business. The other girl is shocked and can't believe such a beautiful woman is his girlfriend. To prove his point, he places his hand on the redhead's waist to show they're a couple. He then hugs her and introduces her as his girlfriend, leaving the redhead speechless. He asks if the other girl wants to be his girlfriend too, and she gets even more irritated. Angrily, she says her grandfather wants to meet him, and the guy jokes about having more sisters. He says he won't let her family take advantage of him, and the girl is furious at his audacity. With a smile, he opens the door and says he'll meet her grandfather as soon as he can. As soon as the door closes, our hero's face shifts to a more serious expression. He then asks the bodyguard to investigate the identities of the assassins and the other girl. Embarrassed, the redhead asks him to let her go first, as they are still hugging. He then lets her go and says he'll check the investigation results later, and she agrees. The guy reflects that the bodyguard's body is beautiful, but her personality is a bit too cold. As soon as the door closes, the redhead is left alone in the room, looking a little embarrassed. With a flushed face, the girl seems confused about her own feelings towards her master. Next, our hero enters the other girl's grandfather's hospital room and is impressed. The place is so luxurious it even has a wardrobe, a refrigerator, and a washing machine. He thinks this isn't a hospital room, but a 5-star hotel and wants one just like it for his mom. The grandfather then thanks him for saving his granddaughter and says the Wei family will give him anything he asks for. The guy refuses the offer, thinking he already has enough problems with the Yi family and doesn't want another. But the old man insists and offers to pay for a luxury room for his mother, but the young man refuses the help. The granddaughter then says he needs connections and thinks he's acting noble to ask for a bigger reward. With that, our hero tells Qingluan to transfer his mother to the best room, and she makes the call. Annoyed, the girl asks if he thinks the hospital belongs to his family to be giving orders like that. At that moment, a nurse arrives and says they are moving his mother to a supreme suite and asks him to sign. The granddaughter is shocked because not even her family can get a luxury room with a single call. The guy says he wants nothing in return and that he and his bodyguard are leaving. With a smile, the grandfather says goodbye, but seems to be plotting something in his mind. He then asks the young man to stay a little longer, but the guy refuses to listen. Suddenly, the old man starts coughing violently, and his granddaughter gets worried about his health. The heart monitors in the room start beeping, indicating something is very wrong. Desperate, the girl screams for her grandfather and asks what's happening to him. Our hero realizes the gravity of the situation and turns to help in any way he can. The doctors rush into the room to provide first aid to the patient. The emergency team prepares for treatment as the situation becomes critical. The granddaughter begs the doctor to save her grandfather, and he promises they'll do their best. The doctor asks everyone who is not on the team to leave, and the guy agrees to step out. From outside, our hero hears the team asking to hold the patient down firmly. The old man thrashes on the bed and ends up pushing one of the doctors away violently. From the impact, the granddaughter is thrown backward and falls hard on the floor amidst the chaos. The guy is surprised and wonders how a 60-year-old man has so much strength. At that moment, the doctor prepares a sedative and tells the team to hold the patient down firmly. But our hero stops him and says that if he does that, Mr. Wei will drop dead on the spot. He explains that he's not a doctor, but he knows the patient's heart will stop with the sedative. The healthcare professional is furious and threatens him for obstructing the rescue. Even with the threat, the guy remains calm and analyzes the situation with a serious look. He then notices a malevolent energy attacking Mr. Wei's heart and veins. With that, he explains that the patient's body is reacting to resist this strange force. If the sedative is administered, the body's protection will be suppressed, and the energy will finish him off. But he reflects that none of this has anything to do with him and decides not to get involved in the mess. With that, the young man turns to leave and says he can forgive them, but the consequences will be on them. Suddenly, a nurse shouts that oxygen levels are dropping and his condition is worsening. The bodyguard then wonders if what her master said was true or just a coincidence. Desperate with the situation, the doctor falls to his knees on the floor, not knowing what to do. He then wonders in shock how this could have happened, as he's out of options. Furious, the girl grabs the doctor by the collar and screams his name in complete desperation. She then demands an explanation, and the healthcare professional admits he administered the sedative. With her grandfather on an oxygen mask, the doctor admits he can't do anything more to save him. With a face full of rage, the young woman can't believe what she just heard from the doctor. With that, she unleashes her anger and lands a powerful punch on the healthcare professional's face. Then, the girl threatens his life and runs out of the room in search of a solution. At that moment, the young woman remembers that the guy had warned her and runs after him, as he must have the solution. With this hope in mind, she runs towards our hero, who was about to leave. The guy then enters the room, applies his needles, and the monitors start showing vital signs again. The medical team is shocked, and he removes the needles as the patient is alive and his pressure is back to normal. The protagonist then gives the doctor a moral lesson, who now thanks him for saving his own life. With Mr. Wei stable, our hero announces he should wake up very soon, and the granddaughter is relieved. With a look of pure relief and gratitude, the young woman thanks the guy for saving her grandfather. He then says the treatment isn't over and that he'll write a prescription for the patient's full recovery. Embarrassed, the girl admits she was mean to him before and didn't believe his words at first. Without saying another word, the guy turns to leave, and the girl is shocked by his attitude. But suddenly, the old man on the bed asks them to wait, as he still has something to say. At that, the scene shifts to the door of the high-class intensive care unit number 103. Suddenly, his ex-girlfriend shows up, surprised to be in a luxury room to visit his mother. With that, she deduces that the guy got rich and, without hesitation, opens the room door to enter. The girl then introduces herself to the lady as a friend of her son, and the mother is surprised. With a wicked smile, she plans to deceive everyone to finally get her hands on his money. The lady says the guy just left and thinks she's never heard of such a beautiful friend. But suddenly, the ex turns around and is surprised to see that our hero is already back. To her surprise, he's not alone but accompanied by the beautiful girl he saved. With anger in his eyes, the guy questions what she's doing there in that place. With an innocent expression, the girl says she came to see him, but inside, she's only thinking about his money. Impatiently, the young man tells her to leave, as she's no longer welcome in his life. With tears in her eyes, the gold digger says she wants to explain what happened between them. She then lies that the other guy forced her and that she didn't actually want any of it. The ex-girlfriend pretends to be hurt and says she'll leave since she's not welcome there. But the guy knows it's a trick and that she's only interested in the 1 million yuan he got. At that, the gold digger becomes furious inside because he's not stopping her from leaving. So the girl changes tactics and grabs him, saying she didn't want to look for him but had no choice. She throws herself at him and continues the lie, saying the other guy assaulted her and left her with nothing. Suddenly, a wad of cash hits her in the head, and the girl is completely surprised. The girl in pink throws the money and calls her a poor thing, telling her to take the cash and disappear. The ex-girlfriend confronts her, and the other responds with authority that she is our hero's girlfriend. The gold digger doesn't believe it and insults her, saying she looks like some kind of escort. Without a second thought, the girl in pink slaps the ex-girlfriend across the face with all her might. Shocked by the assault, the gold digger can barely believe what just happened to her. The young woman then calls her bodyguards and tells them to throw the girl out of the room. The bodyguards drag her out as she screams about the past they shared together. With that, the door closes and the ex-girlfriend is finally kicked out of the hospital room. The guy thanks her and the girl says it was nothing because she hates that type of gold-digging woman. The guy teases her, saying she doesn't do anything cute and only knows how to solve things with her fists. With that, the girl complains that he talks as if she's not a woman, and his mother watches everything. His mother then praises him for the beautiful girlfriend he found, and the two are left speechless. He tells his mother he could do better, and the young woman questions if she's not good enough. At the guy's question, the girl is left completely speechless and doesn't know what to say. She reflects that he surpasses her in everything, and that her only advantage is her beautiful physical attributes. His mother realizes her son is just teasing the girl and is amused by the whole situation. With that, the lady gives the young woman advice on how she should control her man in the future. Annoyed, the girl sticks her tongue out at the guy, who just stares at her without any reaction. He reflects that his mother is already setting everything up and that the girl is completely oblivious to the situation. Next, the protagonist turns and leaves the room, leaving the two women behind. Outside, the bodyguard informs him that she found something out, and he asks what it is. She then reveals that the Wei family and the assassins have some kind of common origin. The redhead explains that the family is powerful, and that both the grandfather and granddaughter know martial arts. With this, the guy understands why the old man and his granddaughter are not ordinary people and are so skilled. The redhead informs him that the assassins are from the Qington organization and that they will be back because they don't fail. With a smile, the guy says they can come. At that moment, the girl in pink calls his name, and our hero turns to see what she wants. She says she's leaving first but will thank him when her grandfather wakes up, looking a bit shy. The protagonist asks why her face is red, and the girl replies that it's none of his business. Annoyed by the question, the girl leaves in a hurry, leaving our hero behind. He thinks she's breathtaking and would make a good girlfriend, despite being a bit violent. Suddenly, he feels that the herbs have been absorbed and needs a place for a power-up. With that, he remembers the ICU bathroom and rushes there, as it's the perfect place for what he needs. Already inside the room, the guy feels his body getting very hot and leans against something to keep from falling. Outside, the redhead senses the energy and realizes her master is undergoing a breakthrough. At that moment, the young man's body glows with blue energy as he undergoes his transformation. The energy intensifies and flows through every part of his body, purifying all his impurities. With this purification, his power increases, and he reaches a new level of strength never before imagined. With the transformation complete, he realizes he has purified his meridians and entered the body-tempering realm. He understands that the celestial scripture is powerful because it contains both martial and medicinal techniques. He admires himself and thinks his future is bright, and his new perfect body will attract the ladies. But suddenly, the bathroom door opens and our hero is caught red-handed. A nurse enters the room and is shocked to see him completely unclothed in front of her. With a red face, the girl is left completely speechless and doesn't know what to do in the situation. Unable to control herself, the woman lets out a scream of panic at the unexpected sight. The guy holds her and says he's not a bad guy and was just taking a shower in there. With his hand over her mouth, the young man tries to calm the situation and prevent more screams in the hospital. He then says he'll let her go, but she has to promise not to scream in panic anymore. The nurse explains that she came to clean the room because his mother was having a medical exam at the moment. But upon looking down again, the girl lets out another scream, even louder than the first. Embarrassed, she apologizes and says she didn't see anything, but he thinks she saw it twice. Startled, the woman ends up slipping on the wet bathroom floor and screams in fear. Our hero acts fast and catches her before she hits the floor, admitting it was his fault. With their faces very close, the nurse thanks him for his help and gets flustered by the proximity. Without missing the opportunity, the guy suddenly kisses her, leaving the girl in shock. The nurse is confused and thinks the kiss was sweet and that she somehow ended up kissing him back. She notices his body and wonders if she should push him away but hesitates for a moment. At that moment, the girl in pink opens the room door and looks for our protagonist. Seeing the scene in the bathroom, the young woman lets out a scream of shock and surprise at the whole situation. Angrily, she accuses the guy of harassing the nurse while he was trying to explain himself in the bathroom. but the healthcare professional defends him, saying that it was actually all her fault. With that, the other girl asks if it was the nurse who was harassing our hero, and she denies it. The guy then confirms with a look that the healthcare professional was indeed interested in him. The girl in pink then understands that the nurse came to clean the room and found him in the shower. Embarrassed, the healthcare professional apologizes for the whole confusion and misunderstanding. With her face all red, she doesn't know what to do after the awkward situation. Unable to bear the embarrassment, the nurse runs out of the bathroom, saying she needs to get back to work. The young woman then tells the guy to get dressed and informs him that her grandfather has woken up and really wants to see him. Already dressed, he warns her that anger is bad for her health and makes her less beautiful than she already is. Flattered by the compliment, the girl gets shy and asks if he really thinks she's beautiful. The guy confirms she's beautiful and says he'd make her even more beautiful if she were his girlfriend. With the compliment, the girl gets completely embarrassed and blushes at the young man's bold proposal. Flustered, she hurries him along so they can go meet her grandfather, who is waiting for them. He thinks about what his mother said to the girl and is impressed by the effect she had. In the room, the old man praises him, saying his medical skills are worthy of a saint. The guy then advises him to rest and explains that it will take some time for his body to recover. The old man offers future help, but the young man warns him about the assassins who are still at large. With that, the old man becomes worried, as they still haven't found out anything about the attackers. But suddenly, he seems to have an idea to solve his granddaughter's security problem. He then suggests that the young woman stay with the guy for her protection, but she refuses on the spot. The grandfather insists that the hero is no ordinary person, and that the final decision also depends on his acceptance. The guy jokes that he doesn't mind, as long as the grandfather isn't afraid he'll devour his granddaughter. To her surprise, the grandfather agrees with the idea, and our protagonist plays along. Annoyed, the girl shouts that no one asked for her opinion and that she doesn't agree with any of it. In the car, he teases her and asks her to treat him to a meal, or he'll rat her out to her grandpa. The girl agrees to the condition and, with a smile, accepts our hero's proposal. With that, she floors the accelerator and promises to take him to a very good restaurant. The car speeds off, and the guy yells that he hasn't even put his seatbelt on yet. As she drives dangerously, he accuses her of trying to take out her own boyfriend. Sometime later, they finally arrive at their destination, a very luxurious restaurant. The young woman gets out of the car and confidently says the place will leave him very satisfied. But when she turns around, she realizes he's no longer by her side and wonders where he went. He then appears, looking sick, and says it's the first time he's ever been carsick, calling her cruel. With a victorious smile, the girl feels better, and he says she shouldn't be allowed to drive anymore. Suddenly, the girl asks what he's doing there, and the guy looks to the side, confused. To his surprise, the rival shows up with another woman and teases him for already being with a new girl. The man introduces him as a colleague who ate trash for money, and his date looks disgusted. The rival continues his mockery, saying the restaurant is expensive and exclusive to members. Meanwhile, our hero and his companion just watch the scene in complete silence. Cruelly, the man says it's a waste to spend money on his mother's illness. Angrily, the rival tells him to just let his mother pass away, and our hero becomes furious. Without a second thought, the guy delivers a powerful slap across the face of the man, who wasn't expecting it. Shocked, the rival can't believe the young man had the nerve to hit him in front of everyone. The protagonist then glares at him and says he doesn't care about insults, but he won't tolerate offenses against his mother. With that, he lands a powerful kick to the enemy's face, who falls to the ground violently. The two women watching the scene are shocked by the fight and don't know how to react, but the girl in pink seems calm and her bodyguards appear to control the commotion. The rival's date is scared by the situation, but the other girl just watches everything. Lying on the ground, the man's face is all bruised and swollen after the beating. With a look of pure hatred, our hero glares at the defeated enemy on the ground without any pity. He then takes out his phone and calls the Shenghua group, asking to fire an employee. The bodyguard confirms that the group belongs to the Ye family and orders them to fire manager Lu Wei immediately. With the order given, the redhead hangs up the phone, and the rival's termination is confirmed on the spot. She then observes the guy from a distance and reflects that he seems to have gotten even stronger than before. The rival doubts it and says he's too important to be fired, even if he offends the directors. But suddenly, the rival's cell phone rings, and he answers the call, not understanding what's happening. On the other end of the line, President Wei yells that he's fired and not to drag him into his problems. Desperate, he says he closed a deal, but the boss yells that he knows what he did and tells him to get lost. The date is shocked by the call, while the other girl just watches the scene with indifference. Angrily, the rival lunges to attack our hero, who seems calm and prepared for the fight. Effortlessly, the protagonist stops the enemy's punch with one hand, showing his superiority. He then puts his foot in front of the rival and trips him to the ground with a simple move. With that, the man falls headfirst into a trash can, screaming in pain and humiliation in front of everyone. Our hero then steps on the rival's back with a blue energy aura to keep him on the ground. Mockingly, the guy asks if the trash tastes good, and the rival tells the girl to call the police. But the woman abandons him, saying he's not her manager anymore, and leaves him alone in the situation. She then kicks him and tells him to shut up because he's disgusting now and not worth anything to her. With the mess resolved, our hero suggests they have dinner somewhere else, and the girl agrees. But suddenly, the rival's ex-date calls him handsome and asks him to wait for her. Then, the woman slips a VIP card into his jacket pocket, and the guy doesn't understand the gesture. With a smile, the woman hands him her business card and asks him to call when he has time. Our hero then opens the car door and says he'll drive wherever she wants to go now. But the girl in pink stops him from getting in and glares at him with a surprised and irritated expression. She then takes the VIP card from his pocket and questions him with her eyes about his intentions. She says the other woman is no good, and he teases her, saying she doesn't want him to see other women. Annoyed by the teasing, the young woman denies everything and claims she doesn't care about his life. With a sly smile, the guy gets closer to her and asks if what she said is really true. The girl gets flustered and asks what he's doing, and he says the answer is obvious. Afraid of his intentions, the girl gets nervous, but the young man confirms her suspicions. She then closes her eyes and asks him to wait, thinking it's still too early for that. Suddenly, a clicking sound echoes in the car, and the young woman opens her eyes, confused by the noise. The guy reveals he was just buckling her seatbelt and teases her about her thoughts. Embarrassed, the girl denies having thought of anything while he laughs at her funny reaction. Later, they leave a fancy building after finally having dinner somewhere else. The young woman asks where he's going, and he replies that he needs to go take care of his mother at the hospital. The young woman teases him to drive properly, or she'll help him with the seatbelt again, and he yells back. With that, their blue car speeds off through the city streets at night. In the passenger seat, the guy looks at his phone with a very serious expression on his face. On his phone, a message from the bodyguard warns him that they are being followed by someone. Immediately, he asks the girl to switch places with him, and she doesn't understand the situation. He then reveals that 2 cars are following them, and the young woman looks in the rearview mirror with a serious gaze. Seeing the cars, she decides to pull over, but the protagonist stops her, saying that's more dangerous. He then comes up with a risky plan for them to switch places while the car is still moving. During the switch, the girl complains about the lack of space while he watches her with a smile. With the maneuver, our hero finally takes control of the wheel to deal with the danger. In the midst of switching seats, his hand ends up touching the young woman's thigh as she adjusts herself in the seat. Sitting on his lap, the girl gets embarrassed, and the guy says the feeling is very nice. He starts weaving through cars, and the girl asks what he's doing behind the wheel. Now seated, she threatens him, but the guy teases her, saying he saved her life once again. The girl calls him shameless, and he says there's nothing to worry about with the assassins. The guy tells her to hold on, and the girl doesn't understand what he's about to do. With a quick move, he spins the steering wheel with all his might to perform a risky maneuver. With that, the blue car drifts on the road and nearly hits a white van, and the girl screams in terror. Completely shocked by the maneuver, the young woman can barely believe what just happened. She says the big car is different, and he asks what she thinks about driving without lights at night. Even with the maneuver, he realizes he can't shake the pursuers and gets frustrated. With no other option, the protagonist decides they need to get out of the car to solve the problem. Once outside, the 2 face the enemies who have surrounded their car, ready for a fight. The 4 assassins appear and say they were paid to end both of their lives right there. The guy then asks how much they were paid, and the attacker replies it was 100,000 yuan. His partner gets angry at him for revealing the job's secret and scolds him on the spot. The group leader then threatens them and tells them to say their last words before the end. But with a malicious look, the villain says he's going to have some fun with the girl first. Angrily, the girl doesn't take the taunt and lunges into attack with a powerful kick. She then asks the guy to attack with her, but he seems confused and doesn't react to her request. Angrily, the assassin charges with a knife in hand, yelling that they're asking for trouble. The girl in pink is surprised to see the weapon and realizes the fight has gotten even more dangerous. Without hesitation, she attacks with a powerful kick, but the villain manages to dodge the blow with agility. With her guard down, the attacker takes the chance and cuts her on the side, making her scream in pain. The enemy taunts her, saying it's normal for assassins to carry knives, and prepares for the final blow. With a wicked smile, the man claims she's no match for them and that her end is near. Even injured, the girl concentrates and a powerful purple energy aura envelopes her completely. But suddenly, our hero appears and grabs the villain's arm, who is shocked by the intervention. Next, the guy twists the attacker's wrist hard, making him drop the knife instantly. The enemy screams in pain from the move while the protagonist stares at him with a calm, cold look. With the man's wrist twisted, the knife falls, spinning on the ground, now out of his reach. Then, with a quick and precise kick, our hero sends the weapon flying toward the attacker himself. The blade flies and embeds itself in the villain's chest, who screams in pain from the unexpected and fatal blow. The protagonist then glares at him and asks why he was in such a hurry to be defeated. Shocked, the girl complains that if he doesn't care about her life, then he can fight alone. He says her wound isn't serious and asks her to be a little more patient. He then says he'll finish them off first and lands a powerful kick on the attacker. The enemies see that he's skilled but are confident that the three of them together can beat him. With that, one of the assassins attacks him with a knife, but the guy dodges with great agility. He notices they're professionals and that luckily the attack only barely tore his clothes. Angrily, the three attackers charge together to finish him off once and for all. He realizes the first attack was a feint and that they are very experienced in combat. But the guy concludes that, unfortunately for them, his strength is far greater than theirs. Without difficulty, our hero blocks the attack of one of the larger enemies in the group. He reflects that he needs combat experience and that this fight is the perfect opportunity. The assassins chase him, calling him a brat as the fight continues in the street. One of the attackers glares at him confidently and says he has no chance of winning the fight. With a smile, our hero apologizes for what he's about to do to them. But the truth is, he's much faster and takes down one of the enemies with a single blow. He then strikes another assassin on the back of the neck, who screams in pain and falls to the ground, defeated. After defeating the two, our hero lands on the ground with great calm and tranquility. He then turns to the last attacker and challenges him to continue the fight with a confident smile. The villain is terrified and thinks that even with 9 lives, he couldn't beat that monster. Scared, the attacker points to the side and asks about a blonde in a bikini, and the guy is confused. Our hero is completely baffled by the question and looks to the side, seeing nothing there. The enemy takes advantage of the distraction to flee and says they'll meet again in the future. Suddenly, the bodyguard appears and starts chasing the assassin who is fleeing the scene. He reflects that the redhead's skills are great, but that he got distracted due to his lack of experience. With the enemies defeated, he approaches the girl to see if she's okay after the fight. But suddenly, the guy is startled to see the state the girl is in at that moment. Lying on the ground, the young woman groans in pain and clutches her stomach as the wound seems serious. Her face shows great pain, and a tear runs down her cheek as she suffers from the cut. Seeing the dark blood, he realizes the blade was poisoned and that she is in danger. Desperate about the situation, our hero rushes to help her, shouting her name. Without wasting any time, he takes her to the Wei family mansion in search of urgent treatment. Already inside the luxurious Wei family mansion, our hero prepares for emergency treatment. Lying on a bed, the young woman moans in pain, her face showing the suffering caused by the poison. The butler suggests the hospital, but the hero says it's too late as the assassin's poison is too strong. With that, he uses a silver needle to stop the bleeding from the wound on her stomach. He then applies several acupuncture needles to prevent the poison from spreading through her body. The butler is shocked to see the bleeding stop, and the young man asks for paper and a pen for a prescription. He says he's going to prescribe medicinal herbs, and the servant agrees to fetch them as quickly as possible. After some time, the protagonist begins to remove the needles one by one with great care. He then disinfects the wound with cotton to ensure the area is completely clean. The guy explains that the cut wasn't deep and that luckily, it won't leave a scar on her. With a smile, he teases her about wearing a bikini and thinks about how breathtaking her beauty is. The young man is captivated by the girl's beautiful attributes and gets lost in thought for a moment. Suddenly, the butler returns with the herbs, startling him out of his impure thoughts. Without wasting time, he starts grinding the medicinal herbs to prepare the remedy for the girl. With the paste ready, our hero carefully applies it over the wound to heal her. With a serious expression, our hero remains focused on the young woman's treatment. Meanwhile, the butler thinks the guy is sincere and that the young miss has never been with other men. He gets excited and thinks that because he's a good doctor, maybe he'll get to see in hair before he retires. Meanwhile, the young man says the treatment is complete and that luckily, it won't leave any scar on her. At that, the butler asks about the remaining herbs and the guy says they are for detoxifying her body. But the servant is shocked to see the hero eating the medicine and asks why he's doing that. The young man explains that since he doesn't know what the poison is, this is the only method he can use right now. Next, the protagonist approaches the bed, leaving the butler even more confused about the situation. With his face close to hers, he says he's not trying to take advantage of the situation, and the girl gets flustered. He explains that his cultivation makes him immune to poisons, so he can pass his aura to the herbs. So, the guy gets close to her to pass the chewed up medicine directly into the girl's mouth. Without wasting time, he kisses her and begins to transfer the mixture of herbs to cure her of the poison. With the kiss, the medicine with his aura is passed into her body to combat the deadly toxin. The young woman is completely embarrassed by the situation, but can't pull away from him. Suddenly, she opens her eyes in shock, not quite understanding what's happening at that moment. Angrily, the young woman screams our hero's name, and the sound echoes throughout the mansion. The guy then jokes that she needs to be careful because she almost bit his tongue. With a red face, she accuses him of taking advantage of her while she was unconscious. He explains he was just giving her the antidote and asks if she can't taste the herbs. Still not believing him, the girl turns to the butler and asks if the story is true. The servant confirms that the guy took care of her, but thinks he might have had other intentions. Embarrassed for getting it all wrong, the girl apologizes for her judgment. He accepts the apology, but thinks it would be a waste not to kiss such a beautiful woman. At that moment, a loud crashing sound interrupts their conversation. To everyone's surprise, the redhead bodyguard suddenly appears in the middle of the room. She informs them that the other attackers have been defeated and that one of them was captured alive. With the man on the floor, the protagonist says it's good to have at least one for interrogation. The girl in pink is impressed and wonders who this powerful woman beside him is. In that instant, the two women stare at each other with a clear look of rivalry in the air. The redhead then analyzes the situation and concludes that the other girl is not her master's girlfriend. The guy interrupts their stare down and tells them to focus on interrogating the prisoner. With a touch to the man's neck, he wakes him up to start asking questions. He then directly asks who hired the assassins for the job, but the attacker stands up bravely and shouts that he will never reveal who the client was. Suddenly, the man tries to bite his own tongue to take his life and keep the secret. However, he's shocked to realize his body won't obey and he can't move. The hero glares at him and asks if he still wants to die, because this time he wouldn't let it happen. With his acupuncture needles, he controls him, and the prisoner has no chance of escaping. The redhead is impressed and wonders where her master learned all these incredible techniques. Already tired of the situation, the young man asks if the man will finally talk or continue to stay silent. Unable to bear the pain, the assassin screams desperately and says he'll tell everything he knows. He reveals they are from Qingtan and that Li Yaoyang hired them to take out the girl in pink. The bodyguard explains that the Yunxing Group is a giant real estate company controlled by the Li family. With that, the guy turns to the young woman and asks why this man would want to get rid of her. She says she ruined one of his scams, and ever since, the man has been trying to get revenge for losing money. The girl in pink confirms with determination that she would do it all over again to stop the scam. With the confession, the prisoner says he knows nothing more, and the hero tells the redhead to release him. But without warning, the bodyguard finishes him off with a precise stab to the man's neck. With the weapon in her hand, she says he couldn't be left alive, and the others are surprised. The protagonist shrugs and says if she prefers to handle things that way, it's fine. He then asks why her family didn't protect her even though they knew she was in danger. The young woman explains that her grandfather got sick, and with the power struggle, she was excluded by the family. At that, the guy starts to suspect that her grandfather's illness is not just a coincidence. She understands his insinuation, but the hero says he doesn't care about the Wei family's problems. With that, he warns that since the enemy provoked him, the fight won't end easily. Without hesitation, the young man says he'll settle the matter today and asks the redhead to take him to the target. The other girl calls him crazy and says the enemy has many experts protecting him. but he just tells her to stay and recover, as he'll be back soon after everything is done. Meanwhile, in another place, a blindfolded man is having fun with several women. This is Li Yaoyang, and he's playing blind man's bluff with the girls, telling them not to run from him. With a smile, he grabs someone and says he caught her and she'll be his girl for the night. But as he hugs the person, he asks why she feels so cold and gets a little confused. Suddenly, he takes off the blindfold and sees the body of a dead assassin hanging in front of him. Startled, the man lets out a scream of panic and terror at the shocking sight. Looking around, he realizes all his guards and the women are lying on the floor. Desperate, he calls for his bodyguards but realizes there's someone else in the room. Looking up, he recognizes our hero and is completely shocked by his presence. The redhead informs him that all 8 bodyguards have been defeated by their group. The enemy asks who they are and how they managed to find his hidden guards. The girl then threatens him and questions how he dared to target the young master of the Yi family. Terrified, the man stumbles backward, unable to believe what he just heard from the woman. Lying on the floor, he asks if the guy is really the young master Yi Han from the capital. Our hero confirms his identity, and the villain panics at the revelation. Without a second thought, the man throws himself on the floor and begs for forgiveness, admitting his mistake. The guy thinks the offense is unforgivable and notes how useful his family name is. The man desperately begs for his life and promises he will never cause trouble again. He continues to ask for forgiveness, while the hero reflects that the Yunshin group is just a subordinate. So scared, the enemy can't control himself and ends up wetting himself right there on the floor. Completely terrified and not knowing what to do, the villain begs for help with a tearful face. Our hero then asks what he should do, and the man promises to obey all his orders. With a change of attitude, the man offers to be an ally and help with problems in the city. He becomes completely subservient, offering a seat and drinks to the young master. But suddenly, the protagonist notices a picture frame on one of the room's pieces of furniture. Curiously, the guy asks who the beautiful girl in the photograph next to it is. The man explains that she's his dream girl and that he didn't recognize her in those clothes. He then says he'll cancel the mission, but warns that Chington won't give up so easily. Since they have a 100% success rate, the leader will want revenge for the failure. With a smile, our hero mockingly asks if he thinks they can handle him. The other man denies it but asks the young master to be careful, and the guy just agrees. With that, the protagonist and the redhead leave, and the villain breathes a sigh of relief for having escaped. Back in the room, the villain notices the girl's photo is missing and doesn't understand anything. In the car, the protagonist and the redhead drive away from the enemy's mansion during the night. He then looks at the girl's photo and complains that he almost got discovered because of her. The redhead says the girl hates him, but he replies that she hates the old master, not him. He explains that he revealed his identity to gain an ally in the city and make things easier. With a smile on his face, the guy agrees with the plan and says it's not a bad idea. Sometime later, our hero finally arrives back at the hospital to see his mother. He reflects that he didn't expect it would take all day just to get a meal. In the hallway, he once again runs into the nurse, who seems surprised to see him there. When she tries to leave, he stops her and says she forgot something important. With a smile, he shows her name badge and says she dropped it earlier that day. He then offers to put it back on for her and takes the opportunity to get close to her again. Completely embarrassed by the closeness, the girl thanks him for his help, and he just nods. He then enters the room and asks how his mother is feeling after the treatment. With a smile, she replies that she hasn't felt any pain since the acupuncture session. The guy tells his mother to rest and promises that with a massage, she'll be cured soon. She says she doesn't expect to be cured, but wants to live to see her grandchildren one day. But he comforts her and says she'll live to be 100 and will even see her great-grandchildren. The next day, our hero takes his mother for a walk in a wheelchair. Sudden, a man in patient clothes calls him, "Brother, yeah?" and waves at him. The man introduces him to a doctor, saying that if it weren't for him, he wouldn't be alive today. Next, the doctor introduces himself as the hospital president named Gao Quanfu. The two greet each other, and President Gao is surprised by the guy's youth. The doctor has heard about his skills and asks the young man to examine a health problem. With a confident smile, our hero says he can naturally help him with that. He then begins to check the president's pulse to understand what the problem is. Sitting at a table, the protagonist continues his analysis in silence for a moment. With a serious expression, he reveals that the president's illness is not simple at all. The doctor asks what he discovered, but the guy realizes he's being tested. The president thinks that if news of his failure gets out, it will tarnish the hospital's reputation. Serving tea, the guy describes the doctor's symptoms as dizziness and nightmares at night. Shocked, the president asks how he knows his symptoms in such detail. Our hero says he can see everything just by looking at him, leaving the doctor impressed. The doctor says no one has found the cause and asks the young man to reveal what he discovered. The protagonist explains that the problem is not in the body but in the influence of an object. He then asks if anyone else in the family has the illness, but the doctor says no. The guy then asks which places the president frequents most in his daily life. The other patient explains that the doctor only goes from the hospital to home because he's a workaholic. With that, the hero decides they need to go to the doctor's office to investigate. The president asks if there's a problem in his office, and the young man says he needs to see. In front of the room, the doctor opens it so the protagonist can investigate the place. Our hero feels a strange energy and activates his mystical eye to see what's wrong. His eyes glow with power as he prepares to uncover the secret of the office. Using his vision, he confirms that a malevolent energy is present in the office. The president doubts the method, but the other patient says he believes in our hero. Our hero claims that the malevolent aura in the place is so strong that no one could stand to be there. With his powers, he finally finds the source of the energy, which is on a bookshelf. But suddenly his eye hurts, and he realizes the time limit for his power has just run out. He then points to a statue and says that if the president throws it away, he will be cured. The Guanyin statue is covered in a dark, malevolent energy that emanates great power. The doctor gets irritated and asks if the guy is a doctor or a witch doctor, as the method is very strange. At that moment, someone opens the office door and enters the room, to everyone's surprise. The patient who was with them gets angry and asks why the hero is bad, mouthing the statue. Then a chubby man defends the object, saying he bought it at a temple for the president. With an envelope in hand, the manager says he brought a new report for the doctor to approve. With a headache, President Gao asks them to talk about that matter later. The doctor says he doesn't believe in theology and will only believe it if the young man proves the connection. The guy says the proof is very simple and that they just need to break the statue to see the result. Annoyed, the patient yells at the hero, calling him a brat for demanding an apology. The protagonist turns and asks if it wasn't he who gave the statue, and the man confirms the action. With a smile, the guy says he now has one more reason to break the statue, and the patient gets angry. The protagonist holds the statue and asks the doctor if he has decided, while the other man calls him a quack. The patient gets nervous about the situation and didn't expect things to take such a sudden turn. Tired of the argument, the president agrees and says he will apologize if the young man is right about the statue. With permission, our hero wastes no time and smashes the object into several pieces on the office floor. As it breaks, a dark, malevolent energy escapes from the debris, and everyone watches, shocked. The hospital president is completely surprised to see the black smoke coming from the broken object. Suddenly, he feels much better and says he can't believe the statue was really the cause of the problem. The hero explains that the statue was contaminated with a deathly aura and asks why he gave it as a gift. Not knowing what to say, the man is left speechless and can't answer our protagonist's question. Angrily, the doctor understands that the man did it for revenge because he didn't cooperate with his company. Furious, the president shouts that he will never do business with his company again and tells him to leave immediately. With the doctor's order, the two men are dragged out of the office and kicked out of the place. The president then turns to the guy and apologizes for doubting him, and the young man accepts the apology. To thank him, the doctor invites him to be a guest professor at the hospital, and the hero is surprised. The president explains that he would receive a salary without having to come to the hospital every day. But our hero refuses the offer, saying he's not interested in being a guest professor. He thinks that to cultivate his skills, he needs to treat patients, but doesn't want to be limited by others. With a smile, the doctor says the invitation will always be open and hands him his business card. After the conversation, our hero and his mother finally say goodbye to the hospital president. Meanwhile, the man who confronted him calls his master and informs him about the statue. On the other end of the line, Master Wei says he will visit the hospital personally to resolve the situation. The man thanks him for his help and hangs up the phone with a victorious and malicious smile. Angrily, he thinks that our hero is a dead man for meddling in his business with the hospital. Back in the hospital room, a different nurse enters with a cart full of food for them. On the cart are several delicious dishes like spring rolls and dumplings that look amazing. The protagonist's mother then invites the nurse to eat with them, but she declines the offer. The guy insists, saying the nurse's food isn't as good and that his mother wants her to stay. Embarrassed by the invitation, the healthcare professional accepts the offer to have lunch with them. So, the three of them sit at the table and begin to eat the delicious meal together in the hospital room. The guy's mother thinks the nurse is a good girl and that she'll have her grandchildren soon. But suddenly, she drops her rice bowl on the floor and the noise startles everyone. Without warning, the woman faints and falls to the floor, sending her son into a complete panic. The nurse also starts to feel very sick and suddenly gets dizzy, not understanding why. With her hand on her head, the healthcare professional can't stay on her feet and starts to fall. But before she hits the ground, our hero catches her and supports her in his arms. He then realizes they were both poisoned and that the situation is very serious. Looking at the dishes, he understands that the poison was in the food they ate. He thinks that because he's immune, the poison didn't affect him, but the others weren't so lucky. At that moment, other doctors enter the room and ask what happened in there. He orders them to start emergency treatment while he prepares what he needs. The hero says he can't identify the poison and that he needs to keep them both alive. With a silver needle, he begins the treatment on the nurse to try to save her. The needle immediately turns black, showing the strength of the poison in her body. Suddenly, the hospital president appears and says he came to see how the guy's mother is doing. Seeing the scene, the president asks what's going on in that hospital room. The doctor explains that the two patients have been poisoned, and the doctor is shocked by the news. Angrily, our hero asks for some herbs and threatens to tear the hospital down if they don't bring them. The president tells the other doctor to get the ingredients, and he obeys the order immediately. With the doctor in search of the herbs, the other doctors rush to prepare everything for the treatment. Beside his mother, he promises that everything will be okay and asks her to hold on just a little longer. He thinks that he can't let anything bad happen to the most important person in his life. He is also worried about the nurse and promises that he will save her no matter what. The guy explains that the poison causes pain and dissolves the victim's bones in just 10 minutes. With the needle in hand, he prepares for the treatment while the president watches him attentively. A tear runs down the hero's mother's face as she suffers from the effects of the poison. He assures the president that he is 100% sure of what he is doing at that moment. With his needles, he begins to apply the treatment to the nurse's body to save her from the poison. He then uses the same technique on the girl's feet to continue the emergency treatment. Suddenly, the president notices something strange and is completely shocked by what he sees. The president recognizes the legendary acupuncture technique, and the other doctor asks what it is. He says the legendary technique treats all diseases and has immediate results. But the doctor explains that the requirements to use the method are extremely high. The practitioner needs to understand the human body completely and also have a lot of experience. The doctor gets emotional seeing the technique that has been lost for decades, and the poison begins to come out. With the technique, the contaminated blood leaves the girl's body, and she finally opens her eyes. The guy explains that once all the poison is out through her fingers, she will be completely fine. The nurse asks what happened, and the hero calms her down, saying she is cured. The president is amazed, and the young man turns to begin treatment on his mother. Using the same method, the dark poison begins to seep out of his mother's body from her fingertip. The girl asks if his mother is okay, but the guy says that since she's older, it will take longer. Just then, the other doctor returns with the herbs, and the protagonist looks at him seriously. He tells everyone to leave so he can prepare the rest of the medicine for his mother. Suddenly, the hero puts the herbs in his mouth, leaving the other two very confused. The healthcare professional then asks what he's doing, and the guy turns to her. With his mouth full, he says he needs to give her the medicine so she can heal. Without wasting time, he kisses the nurse to transfer the mixture of herbs. The president is surprised, thinking the guy would use a different technique. After the transfer, the young man says she will be fine, and the doctor understands the method. He then prepares to give the medicine to his mother, and the others are confused. Embarrassed, the nurse wonders if he's going to use his tongue again with the lady. But our hero asks for a favor, and the healthcare professional agrees to help in any way she can. He explains that he will give her the medicine and that she must pass it to his mother. The girl is confused by the request, but he kisses her to pass the medication anyway. At that moment, the redhead appears and informs the young master that she has discovered everything about the case. She reveals that the Chington assassins disguised themselves and put the poison in the food. The guy says that because he interfered with their mission, they used poison to get revenge on him. The girl warns that their leader is from the Transcendence realm and that he needs to be careful. With a serious expression, our hero reflects on this, so called Transcendence Realm. While later, he returns to the room and sees that his mother has finally woken up and is fine. The nurse says she is his mother's exclusive caregiver and offers to get whatever she wants. He hugs her and says they can go together, leaving his mother excited by the scene. With that, the guy asks the redhead for the car keys and tells her to keep an eye on the room. Then the two leave the hospital and take the car to buy food for the lady. In the vehicle, our hero drives calmly with the girl beside him in the passenger seat. But suddenly, he notices in the rearview mirror that another car is following them closely. With a smile, he thinks this is interesting and wants to see who is trying to attack him now. To lure the pursuers, the young man turns onto a deserted, dark street at night. The protagonist stops in front of an abandoned building to confront his enemies. With a quick maneuver, he makes a sharp turn and brakes abruptly in the middle of the street. With nowhere to go, the cars following him are forced to stop right behind the guy. The nurse gets scared and asks what's happening, and he tells her to wait in the car. He gets out of the vehicle and faces a group of armed thugs who surround him. From above, we see that our hero is completely surrounded by the attackers in the street. A blonde, muscular man approaches and says mockingly that the kid is very brave. The guy asks who sent them there, but the leader says he doesn't need to worry about that. The man says they only came to break his legs and threatens him not to resist. With a smile, the young man asks what would happen if he didn't cooperate with them. One of the goons gets angry and asks if the kid doesn't know Brother Huang Mao. Without warning, our hero lands a precise punch on the group leader's neck. With the blow, the blonde man feels immense pain, and his goons are shocked by the scene. Angrily, the enemy shouts and asks how the guy dared to hit him like that. The young man says they talk too much nonsense and hits him with a powerful kick to the chest. With a gesture, he beckons the others and says he's in a hurry to finish the fight quickly. Lying on the ground, the leader asks for help to get up, and one of his men supports him. Annoyed, the blonde man orders his goons to finish our hero off once and for all. Several men run towards him, and one of them attacks him with a baseball bat, but the guy hits him with a strong punch to the stomach, breaking the bat in the process. With the impact, the wooden object breaks in two and falls uselessly to the ground. Then, the young man prepares for the fight and calls the other attackers to join in. Two goons attack him with knives and shout that he's going to be in big trouble. With a quick and powerful punch, he hits one of the attackers squarely. The young man defeats the men easily, and the leader curses at him with great anger. With a knife in hand, the blonde man prepares to attack our hero, but before he can react, a shoe flies towards his face. The protagonist kicks him to the ground and steps on his face to finish him off. Lying down and coughing, the gang leader can no longer get up to fight. With a cold look, the guy asks who sent them and threatens to be impolite. With everyone defeated, the man says it was his boss and that he will call him. He then reveals with a smile that his boss's name is Sang-kun. The thug boasts that his boss is the biggest authority in the city's underworld. Suddenly, a voice calls for a boss, and the fallen leader looks up, surprised. A man in a white suit appears and complains that a whole group was defeated by one person. He then offers to hire the young man and promises to ensure his safety. Sitting on the man, the hero asks who sent him, and he says it's someone he can't afford to offend. The man reveals that his boss is Li Youyang, the master of the Yunqing group, and boasts of his power. Hearing the name, our hero reflects for a moment on the current situation. Seeing the guy's silence, the gang boss laughs, thinking he's scared to face them. But suddenly, the young man gets up from the ground without saying a single word to the villain. The enemy is surprised and says he brought more than 20 experts for today's fight. Calmly, our hero ignores the threat and decides to make a call on his cell phone. He says on the phone that a man wants to take him out and thinks he's untouchable in the city. Then, the guy offers his phone and says someone wants to talk to the boss. The villain takes the phone and mockingly says he's going to finish the young man off anyway. But suddenly, a furious voice shouts on the phone, and the man is shocked to recognize it. The person on the line threatens him and tells him to come back in 10 minutes or he'll disappear from the city. Completely terrified, the gang boss kneels on the ground, not knowing what to do. Stuttering, he asks how it can be the young master Lai on the other end of the line. The voice asks if he dares to mess with his big brother, and the villain desperately denies it. With the order, he bows to our hero and immediately apologizes for the trouble. Begging forgiveness, the villain reveals that it was the Luo family who paid him for the job. Our hero thinks about this family and remembers he only knows one man named Luo Wei. He then asks which family member made the request, and the boss confirms his suspicion. With the confirmation, he hears on the phone that no information about the case can be leaked. With the problem solved, the protagonist finally returns to his car and opens the door. Once inside the vehicle, he asks if the girl is okay and asks her to keep it a secret. With a smile, he jokingly threatens her, saying otherwise he'll have to do something to her. The nurse is confused by his joke and doesn't understand what the guy is talking about. All embarrassed, she asks if he's thinking of locking her up somehow. The young man just speeds up and thinks she's cute and a great candidate for a wife. With that, the two leave, leaving the gang boss behind at the abandoned location. Then the villain calls Luo Wei and complains that he got him into big trouble. But the man on the other end of the line doubts it and says the hero has nothing but money. Tired of the conversation, the gang boss hangs up the phone, ending the call with the man. Meanwhile, the other guy is furious and shouts that the guy is a bastard and has no influence. Suddenly, a man appears and asks what happened to make him so angry. This is Luo Chang, the older brother, and Lu Wei thinks that he didn't tell him about the attack. With a forced expression, the man says it's nothing and tries to hide his anger. The brother invites him to an important meeting of the city's Chamber of Commerce. Angrily, the other agrees but clenches his fist tightly under the table without his brother seeing. Meanwhile, in the car, the nurse is enjoying a sweet treat the hero bought for her. With a smile on her face, the healthcare professional says the candy is delicious. The guy thinks that she said she didn't want anything, but now she can't stop eating what he brought. But suddenly, something hits the windshield, and he realizes it's the Chington again. The car's glass shatters from the impact of the object thrown at them suddenly. Angrily, our hero tells the girl to hold on, because things are about to get very hectic. Without a second thought, he speeds up the car to escape the attack. After shaking them, the young man tells the healthcare professional to wait in the car for a moment. Then, the protagonist gets out of the vehicle to see who is waiting for them outside in the street. From his shoe, a shuriken falls to the ground, showing he managed to stop the enemy's attack. Looking at a building, a mysterious voice says it has finally found its target. 2 shurikens are thrown at high speed towards our hero on the ground. The guy dodges and realizes that this time, Kington has sent a real expert. With great force, the enemy's weapon embeds itself in the building's wall behind the young man. But he manages to catch the other shuriken in the air, showing his incredible agility. With a quick move, the protagonist throws the weapon back at the attacker. The assassin is surprised to be hit in the shoulder by the shuriken he himself threw. Hiding behind a pillar, the hero celebrates the perfect counter-attack hit. Back at the hospital, he tells the redhead about the attack and asks her to fix the car. The bodyguard agrees to the young master's order and prepares to leave. The nurse informs him that the president of the Chamber of Commerce came to invite him to a meeting. After a hectic day, night finally falls over the city hospital. Our hero walks alone down the corridor, reflecting on recent events. He thinks he is in the body-tempering realm and needs to increase his power level. So, he sits on the floor and begins to meditate to strengthen his martial cultivation. In his hand, a blue energy condenses and forms the yin and yang symbol. With his eyes closed, the young man remains focused on his training to get stronger. His hand closes into a fist, and a powerful energy aura emanates from him at that moment. He then releases a punch into the air, and the power spreads throughout his body with meditation. The blow is so powerful that a crack forms in the air in front of him from the impact. The guy thinks his strength has increased, and now he has a chance against the Transcendence realm. After finishing his training, he finally gets up and leaves the hospital room to go out. The redhead introduces him to 2 men and says they are to protect his mother from attacks. The hero greets them and promises great benefits if they do a good job as guards. Meanwhile, the bodyguard notices that her master's strength has increased once again with the training. With the new guards in position, she accompanies them to the sick lady's room. Meanwhile, at the city's Chamber of Commerce, the night is very busy due to the meeting. Several important men arrive for the meeting, and among them is the villain Lu Wei. The enemy thinks that even though he was fired, the hero wouldn't imagine he'd be there today. But suddenly, he is shocked to see something unexpected at the entrance of the main building. The villain is shocked to see our hero arriving and asks what he's doing there. The other people are also surprised and wonder why the guy showed up at the location. With a smile, the young man explains that the president of the Chamber of Commerce invited him to come. The enemy starts laughing loudly and scoffs at the protagonist's answer, not believing him. One of the men says the president is an important figure with many companies under his control. Another scoffs at his car and calls him a con artist, ordering him to be kicked out. The hero tells the man to get out of his way if he doesn't believe him and tries to pass. But the villain blocks him and says he won't let an intruder enter the Chamber of Commerce. Impatiently, the guy hits the man with a strong shoulder check and knocks him to the ground. Lying on the ground, the enemy hears the young man threaten him, saying he will make him disappear. The villain's brother watches the scene from afar and says that situation is a huge disgrace. People comment that attacking the Luo family in that way is a great insult to them. Ignoring the comments, the protagonist walks towards the building's elevator. He then presses the button for the 11th floor and waits for the doors to open. The redhead appears and says she has already informed President Chen, who will come to meet him immediately. Two guards appear and tell the two to leave, as they have nothing to do there. But suddenly, President Chen appears and welcomes the young master Ye. With a gesture, he invites the guy to accompany him to the meeting room. The president then warns that nothing about the young master should be revealed to anyone. Right after, they enter a luxurious meeting room on the upper floor. The man asks if the hero wants to participate, but he refuses and says he will just listen. He reflects that being a young master is not easy, and that he needs to take care of business. At that moment, another man arrives and greets President Chen, who is waiting for him. The two greet each other and say it's been a long time since they've met. Curiously, the newcomer asks who the mysterious man behind the panel is. The president reveals that it's the young master Ye and that the meeting is about his investments. With that, our hero remains silent and just observes the meeting from afar. To start the meeting, President Chen asks everyone to take their seats. Then the discussion begins and all present start to debate about the business. Lu Cheng then says the investment is large and asks for a chance for his family. Lu Wei boasts that his business is prosperous and will generate great wealth for the Yi family. Hearing the conversation, our hero stops fiddling with his tablet and pays attention to the speech. Other men comment that the Luo family is in luck and is about to get the first slice of the pie. The president then says that the Yai family has evaluated their situation and has high hopes. But the protagonist has other plans and prepares to intervene in the business meeting. Suddenly, a loud voice says it disagrees, surprising everyone in the meeting room. With the sudden interruption, Luo Cheng is completely shocked and speechless. The voice says that not a single cent of the investment will be given to their family, and everyone falls silent. Desperate, the man asks the young master what his family could have done wrong. Our hero coldly replies that he detests Luo Wei and therefore won't help at all. Angrily, he then shatters the tablet in his hands, making a loud noise in the room. With a serious and determined look, the guy stands up and faces the others in the meeting. The brother begs for another chance and even offers to kick Lu Wei out of the family. But the villain doesn't believe it and yells for the young master to come out from behind the screen. Annoyed, the president holds him back and says angrily that he's asking for it. The president announces that the Luo family has been removed and tells the two brothers to leave. The villain is in shock and can't believe what he heard, while the brother finds the voice familiar. With the intruders expelled, the president tells everyone else to continue the meeting. After the meeting, a man invites President Chen for tea, and he accepts. A while later, the president is in the room with another man who hasn't left the premises. The man offers an expensive vase to the president in exchange for preventing the Wei family from winning. At that, the man opens the box, revealing the beautiful and valuable vase inside. The president recognizes the expensive item and asks who sent it there. An old man appears and says he can't say, but asks the president to consider the bribe. Our hero thinks he can take advantage of the situation to hear news about the girl in pink. The president assures that he shows no favoritism, but the guy says the other has his own plans. After the meeting, the protagonist finally returns to his car and prepares to leave. The guy wonders if he should help the girl and asks the redhead which branch of the family she belongs to. The girl explains that the grandfather has 4 sons, and the girl is the daughter of the third, named Wei Peng. The hero concludes that the 4th son is making a move and that the grandfather's situation is very complicated. Back at the hospital, the guy hands the food to his mother and says he brought her favorite dishes. His mother complains about the excessive spending and says the hospital food is fine, but he insists. The nurse invites him to eat with them and says she bought enough food for everyone there. At that, the lady also invites the healthcare professional to eat and thanks her for all her work. With that, the 3 of them sit together at the table to enjoy the meal the guy bought. A while later, the night progresses and their meal in the hospital room comes to an end. Exhausted, the girl ends up falling asleep sitting in the chair after a long day of work. Our hero notices her fatigue and wakes her up, saying she should get some sleep. Startled, the healthcare professional apologizes and asks him not to tell the dean anything. He then tells her to go to sleep and says he will ask the dean for help, but she refuses to go. Suddenly, the guy notices her neck is very stiff from the bad posture. With a smile, the young man calls her to come with him for a minute and guides her by the hand. Inside another room, he tells her to lie on the bed, leaving the girl very surprised by the request. With a blushing face, she nervously asks what he intends to do with her in that room. He explains that he's going to give her a massage and that her neck will get worse if not treated soon. With a smile, the guy announces that he's going to start the massage to relieve the tension in her neck. He warns her that it might hurt a little and asks her to bear it, but the girl agrees to the treatment. The moment he touches a specific point, the healthcare professional lets out a small cry. The sensation makes her squirm a bit on the bed as the young man continues the procedure. With a smile, he asks about the intensity, and all embarrassed, she says everything is fine. But in her thoughts, the girl admits she was too embarrassed to say she couldn't handle the pressure. Sometime later, the healthcare professional finally wakes up from a deep sleep. Startled, she realizes it's already 8 o'clock at night and that she slept for a long time. Beside the bed, she finds a note from the guy telling her not to worry about anything. In the car, the redhead informs him that the assassin has been found and is still in the city. With a serious look, our hero says that since he hasn't left, he will never leave the place. The bodyguard explains that the assassin is hiding in a Kington fortress in the suburbs. The young man then asks if the Yi family can help him eliminate all the assassins there. The girl says that eliminating the evils of Kington is a good deed and that she understands his request. With the order, the redhead steps on the accelerator and prepares to take her master to the location. The redhead describes the place as a 3-story mansion with iron gates and many guards. But suddenly, a strong explosion occurs, destroying the wall of the enemy's property. With the wall destroyed, they can now see the entrance to the mansion without any problem. 2 goons appear and threaten the duo not to advance any further. Fearlessly, the bodyguard tells the men to call their boss immediately for a talk. The guards get irritated by her audacity and prepare to attack with their knives. One of the goons charges with a knife in hand, ready to attack our hero first. The guy doesn't move and calmly waits for the enemy's blow, which is coming his way. The attacker leaps into the air, and the young man thinks these Kington assassins are quite cruel. With a powerful punch, he hits the man in the stomach, neutralizing him on the spot. With the force of the blow, the guard flies backward and falls to the ground, unable to fight anymore. Meanwhile, the redhead delivers a strong slap to the other goon who was ready to attack her too. With the guards on the ground, the two continue their way calmly into the fortress. Inside, a man is surprised to see the duo entering his fortress uninvited. He is Zhao Bei, the vice master of the hall, and he scoffs at the courage of the 2 intruders. Our hero confirms the man's identity, asking if he is indeed the vice master of Qington. The villain confirms and asks why the guy is there, and the young man says he came to kill someone. With a mocking smile, the enemy says they made a big mistake coming there. But suddenly, a silver needle hits one of the goons who was behind our hero. With the precise hit, the man falls to the ground lifeless, leaving everyone else surprised. One of the guards announces that the man is dead, and the chief recognizes the young man's skill with the needle. Sitting in an armchair, the guy explains that the man poisoned him and therefore deserved his end. He then asks with a serious look if the enemies present in the room know who he really is. The villain scoffs at him and says he knows Sang Kun didn't touch him because of another powerful man. The hero thinks that the Ye family took care of his information and asks if the villain has any last words. With the guy's confidence, the enemy's expression turns to one of anger and surprise. Angrily, the chief says the young man is the one who should have last words and orders his men to attack. But our hero tells the redhead to play with the attackers for a bit, and she agrees to the order. Without wasting time, the bodyguard charges forward and delivers a powerful kick to one of the goons' faces. With a spinning move, she defeats all the men at once, showing her great strength. 2 masked goons advance, and one of them tries to hit the girl with a large knife. But the redhead dodges the attack with agility, evading the enemy's blade with a swift move. With a quick move, the bodyguard uses her leg to unbalance the attacker. She then disarms the man and throws his knife away without any apparent effort. The girl finishes the attack with a high and precise kick to the masked goon's face. With all the men on the ground, the chief asks in shock who the 2 intruders are. Sitting in the armchair, our hero smiles and asks if he hasn't already investigated everything about him. The guy then stands up and says he had no problem with Kington before this. but he reveals that they poisoned his mother and sent assassins to finish him off. Angrily, the protagonist grabs him by the collar, and his hand glows with blue energy. The villain screams in pain, and the hero tells him to warn his master to prepare his own coffin. Later, in the courtyard of another mansion, the defeated Vice Master meets with his chief. He tells the Hall Master Ning that the guy sent a message for him to get ready. Hearing the message, Hall Master Ning gets a furious and determined look. With great anger, he slams his hand on the table and shouts that the young man is arrogant and disrespectful. The master fears for Chington's reputation, and the Vice Master asks what the plan of action is now. He orders all the assassins to be summoned and says he will lead the attack against our hero. The Vice Master gets excited and believes that with so many assassins, the guy won't stand a chance. Meanwhile, at the Liu family house, the villain is laughing hard on his sofa, very happy with the news. He celebrates that the hero has offended Kington and that even the master will go after him for revenge. At the Li family house, a man reads that Kington wants to take out Yi Han and wonders if they are crazy. At the Wei family house, the girl in pink is worried and says she needs to find the guy. She then finds the protagonist with his mother in a wheelchair and calls his name. He asks what happened and why she is so anxious, while his mother watches the scene. The girl asks his mother for permission to talk, and the lady agrees immediately with a smile. Worried, she hugs him and asks if he's okay, but the young man says nothing will happen. The girl explains that the master of Kington has warned everyone that he is going to end his life. The guy asks if that's all, and she insists, saying it's the master of the entire Chington Hall. With a worried look, the girl in pink says our hero is in great danger. She then gets closer and hugs him again, saying the situation is very dangerous. He scolds her for rushing over there in a hurry, even though she's still obviously injured. With the anxiety, the girl faints, and the guy catches her in his arms to prevent her from falling. The young man places her on a bench and thinks it's lucky she fell into his arms and not someone else's. With a smile, he says he would have been very jealous if it were another man in his place. Using a needle, he begins to treat her, and she recognizes his excellent medical skills. With her head in his lap, he thinks how good it is to have such a beautiful woman in his arms. The girl in pink thinks his hands are miraculous, and her face becomes completely flushed. Several silver needles are placed on her head and chest to help with the treatment. Waking up suddenly, she asks what's happening, and the young man tells her not to move. With a suspicious look, the girl says she doesn't see any master there, only a big flirt. He then asks how her wound is, and she replies that it's already healed and doesn't hurt anymore. Our hero warns her to be careful and not to get anxious so as not to cause more problems. He then points to the sky and tells her to look at the stars and how good it would be to live without worries. The guy reflects on how good it would be to live without problems, having only the wind and the stars as friends. The girl then asks if he would still be with her like that if that day ever came. The guy replies in a serious tone, saying that a day like that will never come for them. The girl then reveals that in a few days, a major bidding conference will take place. She explains that since her grandfather's hospitalization, her uncle has been stealing many of the family's businesses. With a determined look, our hero says he will accompany her to the event location. Sometime later, at the Sea Dragon Hotel, the commercial bidding conference has already begun. Two men talk about the conference and the rumor of the Ye family's involvement in the project. One of them comments that the young master of the Ye family appeared at the chamber, but no one saw him. The other doubts it and says the guy has no talent for business and only knows how to have fun. Just then, a luxury car arrives at the hotel, drawing everyone's attention. The girl in pink arrives with the protagonist and calls for him to accompany her into the hall. People recognize the girl and wonder who the guy accompanying her to the event is. With the two arm in arm, everyone comments that Miss Wei has a boyfriend now. The girl finds her father and greets him, and he invites them to sit with him at the table. Curiously, the older man looks at our hero and asks who that guy with her is. Another man scoffs and says he can't believe the third brother found a son-in-law for himself. The girl explains to her uncle that he's not her boyfriend, but a friend who accompanied her to the event. She then calls the guy to sit down, and her father thinks he's too close to be just a friend. But the uncle stops him and says the table is for the Wei family, and that the young man cannot sit there with them. The hero says that since there's no seat, he'll forget it, and that he doesn't want to sit with a sick person anyway. Angrily, the uncle stands up and asks who the guy is talking about with such disrespect. Our hero observes the man and notices his dull eyes with dark circles under them. He also notices the dull skin and strange movements. especially after certain activities. Nervously, the man tells him to shut up and asks how the young man knows all those things. With a serious look, the guy reveals he knows all that because he is a professional doctor. The girl's father then asks in surprise if he is the Master Ye who saved his sick father's life. With a confident smile, our hero confirms that he is indeed the doctor who helped him at the hospital. The man apologizes for not recognizing him earlier and invites him to sit with them at the table. He then shakes the guy's hand and says there's no way to repay him for saving his father's life. The young man advises Mr. Wei Jung to take better care of his health so that nothing bad happens. Annoyed, the uncle says that since he's a doctor, he can take a look at his condition right there. Our hero says he can consult him, but the treatment costs 10 million, and he only starts with the money. The uncle is shocked by the exorbitant price and asks if the guy has completely lost his mind. He then refuses and says that Grandmaster Wei will also be coming and that he will ask him to examine him. But the young man states that only he can cure the disease and tells the man to find someone else if he wants. The girl asks if everything he said is true, and he confirms that he never deceives his patients. With the answer, the girl's father falls silent and just observes the interaction between the two. Suddenly, applause echoes throughout the grand event hall, kicking off the conference. The host takes the stage and on behalf of Ningzhou, welcomes all the guests. He announces that before the auction begins, everyone can enjoy the food and drinks being served. Several people begin to socialize, and a man makes a toast with our protagonist in the hall. With that, the atmosphere becomes more relaxed, with guests chatting before the main event. The guy comments on the Wei family's status, and the girl boasts of their importance in the province. Just then, an elderly man walking with a wooden cane approaches the event venue. Someone shouts that Grandmaster Wei has arrived, surprising the other guests with his presence. Others comment that his reputation as a master of medicine and feng shui is truly remarkable. A guest comments that thanks to the master, the Kyun family has grown and hopes for his guidance. With that, the Grandmaster walks towards one of the main tables to sit in the hall. The girl's uncle greets him with great respect and invites him to sit with them. But our hero calls him pretentious, and the girl's father is shocked by his audacity. Furious, the uncle yells at the young man and asks how he dares to speak that way about the master. He apologizes for the guy's ignorance, and the master says it's alright and not to worry. The uncle then asks the Grandmaster to examine his condition and find out what his problem is. After checking his pulse, the master says it's nothing serious, and that he will write a prescription. Hearing the diagnosis, the protagonist can't help himself and starts laughing discreetly. The uncle asks what he's laughing at, and the young man calls the master a foolish old drunk. Oh trage, the other guests curse at him and demand he be kicked out for slandering the Grandmaster. The master then asks how the guy can doubt his decades of medical experience. The hero explains that the uncle's symptoms are visible and that his diagnosis is wrong. Angrily, the Grandmaster states with certainty that there is nothing wrong with the man's pulse. The young man says that not every illness can be diagnosed by the pulse, and the girl tells him to talk less. The Grandmaster recognizes him and asks if he was the one who broke the Buddha statue in the office. With a smile, our hero asks if by any chance it was the old man who set up that statue. The master challenges him to a competition, since he dared to break his feng shui arrangement. The guests are shocked and wonder who the guy is for the master to want to compete. The young man accepts the challenge and asks how they will compete to see who is the better doctor. The master proposes that the winner will be the one who diagnoses and treats the uncle's condition. He then imposes that if the guy loses, he will have to kneel and apologize in front of everyone. Our hero ups the ante and says that if he loses, he will run through the entire place without any clothes on. But he warns that if the master loses, he will have to kneel and bow 3 times. With a smile, the young man adds that the old man will also have to call him Dad. The Grandmaster accepts the promise, and one of the men thinks he shouldn't have accepted the bet. He thinks the master is famous, and that the young man just got lucky saving the girl in Pink's grandfather. Confidently, the protagonist says he won't lose and tells the Grandmaster to start the challenge. Without wasting time, the old man begins the examination and holds the uncle's wrist to make his diagnosis. He says it's just fatigue and prescribes Kaiyang powder to regulate the body and improve health. The girl's uncle agrees with the diagnosis and says his illness is not serious at all. Next, the master tells our hero that it's his turn to examine the patient. With a focused look, the young man prepares to make his own diagnosis of the sick man. He says the pulse diagnosis and treatment are correct, but there's a catch. At that, a blue aura emanates from our hero's hand as he touches the uncle's wrist. He asks the man if he can move now, leaving everyone confused by the question. Frightened, the uncle tries to get up but is shocked to realize he can no longer move at all. The Grandmaster is perplexed by the scene and doesn't understand what the young man just did. The guy explains that the human body is complex and just needs one chance to collapse. Without warning, he lands a precise punch on the uncle's face, leaving everyone shocked by the assault. With the blow, the man spits out some blood and asks what the protagonist did to him. The hero explains that the cause of the illness is overwork and that it has already affected his foundation. He warns that when the illness fully manifests, there will be no chance of a cure. Our young man explains that the master's medicine would only cover up the symptoms and worsen the condition. With a smile, he tells the Grandmaster to take another look at the patient's pulse. The Grandmaster agrees with the assessment and says the man's condition is indeed very serious. Desperate, the girl's uncle asks the old master for help and begs him to save him quickly. But the Grandmaster bows to the guy and calls him Senior, leaving everyone surprised. The sick uncle then turns to the protagonist and begs him for help to get cured. Our hero says he can save him but demands that he return everything he stole from his niece. The girl is surprised and realizes the young man is doing all of this for her right there. The uncle refuses to return the things and says it's impossible and he absolutely will not do it. He says there are many famous doctors and that if necessary, he will go to the capital for treatment. With a smile, our hero repeats that only he can cure that disease and no one else in the world. Suddenly, the Grandmaster kneels on the floor, leaving all the guests shocked. With his head on the floor, he admits he gives up and doesn't know how to treat the sick patient. The guy says the old man lost the bet and should honor their agreement. But he forgives him and says the master doesn't have to call him Dad and can get up. Embarrassed, the Grandmaster says he won't stay any longer and prepares to leave the venue. He then hands his card to our hero and offers to help with anything. With the challenge over, the old master leaves the hall, leaving everyone behind at the event. With his sudden fame, several guests approach, asking the guy to look at their problems. But our hero refuses the requests and says he won't examine anyone else that day. With his refusal, the people disperse, and the conference prepares to finally continue. The girl in pink praises his medical skills, and he boasts about also knowing about Feng Shui. Excited, she asks the young man to help her with his knowledge, and he agrees to the request. He then warns the girl that in this conference, she needs to win the bid no matter what. Her uncle laughs at their confidence and says it's impossible for his niece to win the auction. Our hero then asks why the man is so sure the girl will lose the bid. The uncle explains that her company lacks experience and therefore has no chance of winning. With a confident look, the guy warns that he himself will return what was stolen from the girl. With the direct threat, the man is in shock and starts to sweat cold from the young man's words. Soon after, the host announces on stage that the bidding conference has truly begun. In the audience, two men comment that they didn't expect to see the young master of the Yi family there. The other explains that his family is the investor, so it's normal for him to be present. The host then announces that the bidding is officially open to all present. With that, several people raise their paddles, showing their company names to compete. Our hero asks the girl why she hasn't raised her company's paddle yet. Dejected, the girl in pink sighs and says that raising the paddle won't do any good. She explains that the other companies have more experience and that hers has no chance of winning. The guy encourages her to try anyway and says that not even God can help her if she doesn't try. With a mocking smile, the uncle says that even without winning, it's good for his niece to participate. With our hero's words, the girl decides she will try, even with little chance of winning. So, the girl in pink raises the paddle with her company's name to enter the competition. On stage, the host and the other guests are surprised to see her paddle raised. One of the important men comments that Master Ye has already decided who the winning candidate will be. Suddenly, the gavel is struck on stage and the host announces the end of the bidding session. He says that after some discussion, the winner of the grand project has finally been decided. A guest comments that whoever wins the project will grow a lot, but that he has no hope. Another man whispers that the girl's uncle's company is the most likely to win the auction. The girl's uncle asks his brother who he thinks will win the bid this time. The girl's father says it doesn't matter who wins and that their father always taught them to be discreet. He continues, saying the Wei family has been in the spotlight too much and it's okay if they don't win. But our hero interrupts him and asks if the uncle doesn't believe him when he said his niece would win. Ignoring the argument, the host on stage announces that the winning company is the Pengfei Group. The girl in pink and her father are completely shocked by the unexpected result of the auction. Hearing the name, the uncle's jaw drops, and he has a look of pure disbelief on his face. The other guests are also confused and wonder how an inexperienced company won. The girl asks if it's really her company, and the young man confirms with a smile that he already knew. Angrily, the uncle slams his hand on the table and shouts that it's impossible for his niece's company to have won. He then stands up furiously and demands an explanation from the host about that decision. Calmly, the man on stage replies that this was Master Yi's decision and questions him. The guests understand everything, and the uncle wonders when his niece got associated with our hero. Defeated, the man hangs his head, having nothing more to say after the revelation from the stage. The host warns him to be careful with his actions and invites the girl's father to the stage to speak. Humiliated by the defeat, the girl's uncle lowers his head, unable to look at anyone. Without a word, the man gets up and leaves the hall, completely ashamed. On stage, the girl's father shakes the host's hand and thanks him for the business opportunity. With the end of the conference, the three of them leave the hotel and walk together through the grand event hall. The girl in pink asks if she's dreaming, and our hero confirms that she was the one who won the auction. Excited, she asks him to guess who she'll marry, since he's so good at predicting things. With a charming smile, the young man points to himself and says he's right in front of her. Back at the hospital, the guy watches his mother and thinks she'll recover in a few months. With a smile on his face, he is happy to see the lady sleeping peacefully in her bed. Leaving the room, he finds his redhead bodyguard waiting for him outside the door. The girl informs him that Chington is mobilizing to find a chance to attack him soon. She then reminds him that he will soon need to go to the Kyun family's birthday party. The redhead says she will train him to avoid more mistakes, and the young man is surprised by the proposal. In another location, the bodyguard explains that he needs to learn etiquette and how to dance for the event. With a mischievous look, the guy thinks his instructor's body is really beautiful. The bodyguard asks if he's paying attention, and the young man says yes and asks what comes first. With a serious look, she tells him to maintain his posture and says they will first learn etiquette, while later, the redhead says she will teach him to dance, and he asks if it's really necessary. The girl confirms and warns that he will be embarrassed if he doesn't know how to dance at the important party. During the lesson, she teaches him the correct position and asks where he should place his hand on her. The guy then places his hand on her waist and pulls her closer to start dancing. With a smile, he says they should practice, and the redhead tells him not to get distracted and to learn from her. Embarrassed, the young man agrees to the order and says he will learn the lesson very seriously. With that, the two begin to practice dancing together in the middle of the large training hall. But accidentally, the guy steps on his partner's foot during one of their dance steps. With the step, the two lose their balance and end up falling to the ground together suddenly. The young man ends up on top of her, and his face gets very close to hers with the unexpected fall. With his hand on her head, the guy is speechless with the proximity of the two on the floor. In his thoughts, he admits that this is the true feeling of happiness for him. All flushed, the bodyguard gets very nervous about the situation and starts to sweat. Annoyed, the bodyguard sits on top of him and accuses him of taking advantage of the situation. With an awkward smile, he apologizes and says he couldn't resist the temptation of the moment. With great anger, the redhead raises her hand and prepares to slap the cheeky guy's face. But he quickly reminds her that her boss has forbidden her from hurting him in any way. Grumbling, the girl gets up from the floor and tells them to get back to practicing the ballroom dance. As they dance, he asks what gifts she thinks he should prepare for the party. The young man explains that what he had thought of before was too extravagant and lacked feeling. He continues, saying that although it was something precious, it had no real intention. Suddenly, the protagonist has an idea and asks the girl to help him with the piano gift. 3 days later, the two are dancing very well together and look like real professionals. The instructor praises his progress and says that for an amateur, he's not bad at all. He then jokes that it would be a waste not to train with beautiful women every day. The bodyguard informs him that they leave the next day and that his plan is ready. Already on the plane, our hero prepares for the trip to Tianhai City for the event. But suddenly, a knife is put to his neck and he asks what the attacker wants from him. The attacker reveals himself and says he didn't expect to find our hero on that flight to Tianhai. He then introduces himself as Ning Shashan, the master of Chington, and threatens to take the guy's life. The villain scoffs and says that with the plane in the air, the young man has no way to ask for help. With a wicked smile, the chief of Chington tells the protagonist to die obediently. Meanwhile, one of the goons warns the redhead bodyguard that it's better if she doesn't move. He threatens that if the girl moves, he will end our hero's life right then and there. With that, the guy and his protector are surrounded by the Qingtan assassins inside the plane. Fearlessly, the young man asks if the enemy is sure of what he's saying, and the villain laughs at his courage. The chief of Qingtan says the only person who can save him is his redhead bodyguard there. He shouts that for hindering them before, the only fate for the protagonist is his immediate end. Taking a step forward, the master of assassins approaches to continue his threats. He grabs the young man by the collar and says he will let the girl watch him be tormented. With a malicious look, the villain orders his men to go after the bodyguard and capture her. But suddenly, a blonde man in a suit and sunglasses stands up from his seat on the flight. Without wasting time, the mysterious man charges forward with his fist, ready to attack the enemies. The redhead bodyguard also springs to action and delivers a powerful punch to the goon's stomach. With the blow, the man falls knocked out to the ground, unable to fight the two heroes anymore. The blonde man says the Qingluan group has taken care of the assassins and awaits the master's order. Shocked by the scene, the master of Qingtan doesn't understand what just happened on the plane. With a quick move, our hero takes advantage of the distraction and disarms the villain effortlessly. The protector then threatens the chief with a red energy, and he screams in pain and fear. The girl continues her attack, leaving the leader of the assassins completely terrified on the flight. On his knees, the enemy asks who they are and if they belong to some other powerful group. The guy explains that since he couldn't find him, he used this method to lure him into a trap. He reveals that everyone on the plane is his men and that the chance to attack was a lie. The villain remembers the rumors and asks if the young man is the master of the powerful Yi family. With a smile, the protagonist confirms the suspicion but says there's no reward for guessing. Completely defeated, the chief of Qingtan bows to the ground and admits he was wrong. Our hero then points to the villain on the floor and gives an order to his two men. With the order, the men open the door and throw the villain out of the plane mid-flight. With the villain defeated on the ground, our hero praises the strength of the guards he trained. The girl explains that it took a lot to train the Qingluan people, and that they will return to the capital. She then reveals that in the Yi family, these warriors are just subordinates of the great Qingluan. The guy says it's okay because with her by his side, he doesn't need anyone else to help. With Qingtan defeated, the protector says they will stop for a while, and the young man agrees. He then calls for her to follow him to another part of the plane so they can prepare for landing. In a room, the redhead warns that they will arrive in half an hour and reminds him of his important identity. With a smile, the hero assures that he has already adapted to his new status as the master of the Yi family. The girl then hands him an outfit and tells him to change for the approaching landing. The guy asks if they both need to change, and the bodyguard confirms with a serious look. She explains that the Kyun family will be receiving them and asks if he wants to be a joke to them. With a flushed face, the young man thinks how exciting it is to change clothes with such a beautiful woman. Inside the changing room, a commotion starts and she accuses him of touching her on purpose, but he denies everything. A while later, the plane finally lands safely at the large airport in Tianhai City. Outside, a girl in a red dress complains about the heat and wonders why the guy hasn't arrived. An older man tries to calm the girl down and says the guy should be arriving soon. Angrily, the girl complains that she's only there because he's the young master of the Yi family. Two men comment that our hero's reputation in the capital is that of a complete good for nothing. The old man warns her to be careful, but she says the guy is trash and won't escape her. Suddenly, a man announces that the young master's plane has finally arrived at the airport. With that, our hero and his protector descend the stairs in elegant, formal attire. The protagonist thinks that the Qing assassins have been following him for a long time. Elsewhere, a man despairs and remembers that the only one he offended was our hero.